Welcome everyone to episode 77 of Raw Sport. We are back for season 2025. Mr. Rick Glaser, how are you, sir? How was your well-earned break?
It was pretty good. Guy was a little sick and recovered and back to normal now. I mean, I'm not normal, but I'm back to normal.
You've been getting too sick, Mr. Rick. You need to get out of Buffalo, New York. It's too cold.
Uh, it is.
Ricky, last year,
Yep.
last year was a big year in boxing. The Saudis came in and threw their weight around, threw their money around, made a few acquisitions, influenced many fights, and really changed the way the sport has been run for, let's say, the last 20 years. Now, of course, there's always pros, there's always cons, there's always supporters, there's always those that are against change. But one thing that has really stood out and continues to stand out, that the Saudis are interested in making the big fights. The Saudis
Mhm.
are interested in putting their money where their mouth is. The Saudis are going above and beyond, out of their comfort zone, to make sure that the sport goes back to its old days, its glory days, people would say.
Mhm.
What has the last 12 months looked like for you, Mr. Rick Glaser? With your glasses, your lens, your opinion, your brain, share it with us.
Well, I think first of all, they've made Turkey Al Sheikh the spearhead behind the whole situation. Got Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren talking and doing business, which is like, I don't know, it's like a shock. So that was great. Uh, I think that the game plan, business plan of Turkey Al Sheikh long term is to control boxing by making the biggest fights. Okay. And he's going about it the right way. We made a lot of fights this year we weren't able to make before this year, which was the two fights in particular is Peterbiev versus Bivol and Usyk and Fury. And they both fought. Fury and Usyk fought twice last year, and Peterbiev and Bivol fought once this past year, and they're going to fight again February 22nd in a rematch. And we haven't been able to get one fight off the ground with either of those guys fighting each other, let alone two of them apiece. So that's four fights right there. The biggest fights, the biggest light heavyweight fight, the biggest heavyweight fight. That was a big thing, and it's more of that is to come. There's no question. They just made Conor Ben versus Chris Eubank Jr., for example. That's going to be April 26th in the UK. It just doesn't get any bigger than that if in the UK as far as non-heavyweight fight. So you have fights that are being made now that they weren't able to get together. They've talked about it for years and they were never able to get them together. They've got cross promoters doing business. Long term, Turkey Al Sheikh bought the Ring magazine, and he bought what is rumored to be 10% of DAZN. I heard it was 13%, which with the right to buy up to 50% going forward. So I think all those things coupled into one show a long-term tendency to forward the sport and long-term for Turkey Al Sheikh and Saudi Arabia to be in the sport as a serious power broker. Because if they weren't in it long term, they wouldn't be buying Ring magazine for millions. And they wouldn't be buying DAZN, putting up $2-3 billion to buy DAZN, whatever it costs them for between 10 and 13%. Like I said, I'm seeing they're saying 10%. I heard it was 13, but I don't know. I don't know which is truth, but whatever. They did buy part of DAZN. That's a big statement. And they have a right to buy up to 50%, I understand. So, and they probably will exercise that right. So these are all things that play into the longevity and the long game of what Turkey Al Sheikh is attempting to do.
Wow. Who were the biggest winners last year from the Saudis getting involved?
I'd say everybody that got a check. I mean, you got talking about Frank Warren. You're talking about
Systematically, let's not focus on fight. Let's look at systematically the industry, boxing as a whole. Who were the biggest winners?
well, fans, because now there's charging between 1995 and 29.95 for pay per views, where they were charging people were charging 79.95 before. I'm talking about in America.
Yeah.
So that's a start right there. I think buying the Ring magazine and investing a lot of money in it, that's going to help the fans. Everything he's doing is fan friendly. Let me tell you, I'm buying part of the zone. That's fan friendly because he's trying to get all the promoters together on the zone. So the fans have one place to go watch fights, the zone, whether they're subscription based or they're pay per view. That's what he's trying to do. So I believe that everything is headed in the right direction. They're spending billions of dollars, not millions, billions. And I think the whole industry worldwide is going to be going uphill. Now, the only country that couldn't go any uphill from where they were is Japan, because Japan was already drawing big crowds for all kinds of fights, whether it's a Nui, whether it's Junto Nakatani. They were already drawing big crowds and doing big numbers over there on free TV and pay per view and all, whatever they're doing over there. Everybody was happy. But the rest of the world will be improved in boxing. There's no question about it. Certain countries were getting pay per view will be getting subscription now. Certain countries that weren't getting anything will be getting both subscription and pay per view now. So there's a lot of things that are happening that are all positive. Boxing is not becoming a niche sport. It's becoming a global sport is what's happening. And I've
Who,
said that for a long time.
who were the biggest losers?
PBC did 5 shows last year, 4 pay-per-view, 1 regular. They have no stars. Their stars will keep losing. And, Wilder left them and Spence never fought. The 2 Charlos never fought. I mean, they're the Skid Row of boxing promoters is what they are.
So PBC are the ones that pretty much placed this.
Yeah, they're not in the clique. They're not in the clique. Correct.
They placed this huge emphasis. Them and Floyd Mayweather, even pre PBC was actually alive. It was more Al Heyman and Floyd. This massive emphasis on the zero, and it really destroyed boxing. For many, many years, fighters were cherry picking their way to the top, and once they lost, they thought that their careers were all over because that's the perception that they brought to the table.
Yes.
Turkey Al Sheikh came out recently and said, as actually just only a few days ago, we have to get past the zero. Losing is okay. And the reference that's always made is the UFC. Their champions have all lost, except Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, but in fairness, excuse me for interrupting. In fairness, they're fighting for 500,000 and $1 million and 750. These guys are fighting for millions, millions, and millions per fight. It's apples and oranges. But how Turkey Al Sheikh is going to get around to everybody begging for that zero is he's going to make fights, competitive fights, that between undefeated guys and top fighters fighting each other. You're worried about your zero. Don't worry. If you lose this fight, I'm going to bring you right back. As soon as you're ready to fight, you call me, and I'm going to put you in, and he'll do that. He'll put him in another fight and another big fight and not rebuild him, but at least give him another opportunity. A lot of times guys lose. He's not popular. He doesn't get another opportunity.
But Rick, I actually have the contrary opinion on this, and I'll tell you why. Because
you by the way, you're allowed to keep
exactly,
going.
And I'm going to tell you why. I believe sometimes people, when they lose, their stocks go up more than them winning.
Well, it did. It has happened in boxing. It happened when Razor Ruddock fought Mike Tyson the first time. That happened. It's happened when Dave Tiberi fought James Toney, but he never fought again. It happened when Canelo Alvarez fought Floyd Mayweather. Okay, when he lost, but his stock went up. So it does happen. There's no question about it. It does happen, but that is more infrequently than it is than it happens occasionally, infrequently. Normally, the stock goes down. Normally,
And,
so
yeah, and if I continue, it's because if that thought process, that mentality of the zero is out of the picture, I believe fighters will give it more. They will fight more freely. I believe it's holding a lot of fighters back.
you're 1,000% correct. I've said it
Yeah,
all along. But part of the problem was once they lost, these networks would shun that fighter, and now they're not going to be shunned. Turkey Al Sheikh saying, "Okay, you take this fight, you lose. Here's what we're going to do next." So he's giving them a venue to walk, a street to walk down, hold their head high, fight well, lose, and come back, which the networks weren't doing.
exactly, and that's what we need. That's what the sport
Right.
needs.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
All right, that's 2024. 2025. Who are going to be the biggest winners in 2025?
The fans, for
Again,
starters, and
okay.
that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. Let's listen, and hopefully 2026 the fans win. It gets everything gets better and better, and the fans win. What do I think? The fans are going to win. The fighters that are in the biggest fights, whether they win or lose, are going to win. And I believe boxing's going to come back to the forefront of and bigger worldwide than it's ever been. I'm not saying in a particular country like the United States, but I'm going to say that boxing will be better in 2025 in the U.S. than it was in 2024, and I think it'll be better next year. I think it's going to go in an up. It's going to go uphill, no matter where it is, except Japan. Japan, I don't think is going to be as affected as the other places. Japan's drawing massive crowds, massive numbers on TV, because, okay, without anybody else's involvement from the outside. Just what the facts are.
Yeah, their media networks and their cable networks can draw for a fighter like Inoue 52 million people, which is
Well, not only in a way, the Nakatani, there's a whole
yeah,
bunch of them that draw over there.
exactly.
There's
So
one
which
guy
is
that beat
insane.
one of the Maloney brothers. I think it was Jason. He's like 6 or 7-0. He's a huge draw. Whatever his, I don't know his name offhand. Don't ask me that. But
Yeah.
he beat Jason Maloney. He's a big draw. I mean, they're just big draws. It's a different society. Remember one thing: some countries, some societies look at fighters as noble sportsmen, and some look at them as street urchins. In America, we look at them as street urchins. Over in Japan, they look at them as noble sportsmen, as they do. Some people do in England, and some people don't look at it that way. They're just regular citizens to some people. But in Japan, they're noble sportsmen, and that's very important. And it's huge. It's boxing's huge in Japan.
Do you think
Look
it
how many
has
world champions they have right now. Oh my
Ricky?
God!
Rick, in saying that, do you think it's because of the samurai mentality, that fighting mentality? Do you think that plays a role there? That
I
warrior
don't know.
mentality?
Okay, I don't know the culture that well to say that, but I will say whatever they're doing over there, they're doing it well.
Who's going to be the biggest loser in 2025, Rick?
Well, if Ben Shalom loses his Sky TV deal, it'll be Ben Shalom.
If he loses, is he at risk of losing it?
I think it's up later this year, late this year.
Where would they go?
I don't know. He'll probably fall in line with the Turkey situation, maybe end up on the zone, but it might, he'll be, you know, well, if that happens that way. But he's not
Are we
exactly.
hearing? Are we hearing whispers that Sky wants to get out of boxing?
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that at all. I don't think they want. Boxing has been a big draw for them for a long time. I don't know if that's the answer, but it may be. I don't know that, but you know, boxers not putting on fights that people really are excited to see. That's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Very big problem. How big of a concern is it that PBC might go out of business this year to the sport?
Well, I think it'd be great if they went out of business. You want to know the truth? I mean, they've been a cancer in boxing for a long time. So
And just to be fair, Rick, right? Why do you say that? Like, give people a reason why.
they've
Just to be
they've they've
objective here.
they've squashed fights between rival promoters that they squashed. They wouldn't do, and it wasn't money. They just wouldn't do it because they didn't want their fighters to lose on another network or to another promoter. Just a lot of things. It's just a screwed up organization.
Do you believe the downfall of boxing over the last 22 years, they've had a big part of that?
They've had a big part of it in the last 10 years. Yes, they have.
Okay. Wow. Huge. All right. Let's keep going. There was talks last week of Dana White, TKO Holding Group. The owner of that is Ari Emanuel, who's a powerhouse in the world of combat and Hollywood, who has made some big moves recently with the acquisition of the UFC, acquisition of WWE, and merging them under the one banner TKO Holdings. There's talks that Dana and Ari met with Turkey Al Sheikh to start a boxing league, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's dissect that a bit. Number one, have you heard anything about that?
Yes.
So it's true.
Yes.
Wow. So boxing circles are talking that this is actually happening.
Yes, but it's supposed to be for young fighters, prospects. It's not for the 12-round established fighters.
Okay, that's one. Number two, how will this impact the sport and its current structure?
I don't know enough about it yet to make that judgment, to make an assessment, but
The way
I
Rick
know
sees it,
that
the way Rick sees it, the way you see it.
boy, I see it. I think that he's going to use the UFC model where no matter what their age and others, and no matter how young they are, because they'll all be young, they're going to good fighters will have to fight good fighters. The fighters will have to fight even like just like it was a world championship fight. You know, young fighters will be fighting young fighters that are 5-0 will be fighting guys 5, 6, 7-0 themselves. I don't think they're going to give anybody any passes. I don't think that Dana White's not, he's not running a gift shop.
Rick, is this Turkey's way of putting the sanctioning bodies on notice? Because if you have let me just quickly reason my question. If you have a
Mhm.
league for young guys who are going to come through, who are going to lose that O, who are going to have some sort, it's going to impact their career in some way, shape, or form. And then they're going to go up and fight, trying to quantify themselves and qualify for the top 15 of all these sanctioning bodies. There has to be some sort of effect there. Is this his way of telling them, hello guys, you either fall into place or we have these guys who are proven to be successful in the UFC to come along and disrupt the sport, and I will back them all the way?
I don't know that. He's very friendly with Mauricio
Yeah.
Suleiman. He's very friendly with Gilberto Mendoza, and he's very friendly with Gustavo Oliveira. Those are the presidents of, Mauricio Suleiman's president of WBC, Gilberto Mendoza Jr. is president of the WBA, and Gustavo Oliveira is the newly appointed president of the WBO, newly as of this fall. And I believe that I don't think he's going to disrupt the organizations in that sense. I know he has. I understand. I shouldn't say I know. I understand he's got disdain for the IBF for them stripping Canelo and then for stripping Usyk and stuff like that. And I think if any organization is going to be affected by this, it would be the IBF. But I think he's going to. I think he may say no IBF fights, and we'll do WBC, WBA, WBO, and Ring Magazine belt. So maybe the winner will be a Ring Magazine champion and a WBC champ and a WBA, WBO champ. And I think he may do away with the IBF. I can see that happening.
Interesting. Who's your pick for the prospect of the year that fans need to look out for?
Oh, Moses Tama. Not it's not even not even in doubt.
He's a bit of a beast, isn't he?
A blind man could see that. A blind man could see that. They just have to hear the punches landing.
Wow. Who
He's good. Not only is he not what's nobody's talking about. Everybody talks about his power and his speed. You can okay. What about the accuracy?
yeah.
Almost every punch
Wow.
lands.
Wow.
He's really good. He's I think he just turned 20 years old. I mean, he's the real deal to me. And listen, we don't know if he can take a punch, and we don't know if he's got any
We'll
heart
find
yet.
out.
We don't know that because he's never been. But everything we've seen so far, he looks like the next coming.
And who's going to rise this year, Rick? Which fighter's going to rise
Moses Atama,
again?
yeah,
And who's going
yeah,
to?
he's the real deal. I'm unless something that is some character flaw in him, where he doesn't have any heart or he doesn't have a chin. But so far, the guy looks like the real deal. I mean, the guy looks as good as any young fighter I've ever seen. He's so poised in there too. I mean, just he's so confident and poised. I mean, it's
Who's going to
crazy
fall over the edge?
in a
Of
bad way. You
course.
mean
There's no good ways falling over the edge.
Anthony Joshua? Anthony Joshua.
You reckon?
Yeah, he's come to the end. He doesn't have the punch resistance he had, and as soon he might get a win or two against just a guy, but as soon as he gets in with a real guy, he's gonna get splattered.
What do you think of the Ring Magazine Awards and the outcomes?
Uh, I, I thought it was brilliant. I thought they did a great job. The only thing I'm disappointed is they don't have a manager of the year award, but I thought it was great. I thought the awards were well done. The upset of the year was that Bruno Saras
Yeah,
who
that was a
beat
big upset. Mongia.
yeah
Yeah.
Manguia. The knockout of the year. I didn't agree with Dubois. I thought that Lucas Body won, but remember the Body fight was a lot smaller. Not as big worldwide and didn't have the prominence, but that was really the knockout. And the other knockout was great was Angelo Leo when he knocked out the champion in that fight on ESPN, the world champ in a world title fight, and he knocked him dead cold with one punch. So those I think were better knockouts, but I didn't have a problem with it. Prospect of the year, Moses. I mean, everything was well done. Everything was good. I mean, what a beautiful affair. Everybody I talked to thought they said they had a wonderful time. It was great. Some of the players got airtime with Turkey El Sheikh. That's nice too. And it was, if they do it every year, it's just going to help boxing. It's going to bring boxing to the forefront. It's like the
The
Emmys,
SPs.
um, the ESPYs, the Emmys, right? It's going to bring boxing back to the forefront. Every little bit's going to help, and it's going to help. Period. Every little bit's
It
going to
was a
help.
great event. It looked really grand, and it was awesome
It
to
did.
see all the big fighters there. Bar one, by the name of Tank Davis, who's having a bit of a sook at the moment, but we'll.
And Tyson Fury
Yeah,
wasn't there.
yeah, absolutely. Tyson wasn't also. I think that's because he announced his retirement not long after, really. Um, yeah, he's probably still in a bad place because of his loss. But anyway, we can excuse him. But it looked really grand. It gives boxing that special night that all those other sports have. That boxing hasn't had it in a long time. Like every sport has that big night, the special night that everyone looks forward to, the media looks forward to, the press comes, the world awaits an outcome. That hasn't happened in boxing for a very long time. And the fact that Turkey has done that under with the Ring Magazine Awards, it's beautiful. The Ring Magazine has launched their app and their website. They held a beautiful and awards night. What else do you think we will see from the Ring Magazine this year?
I don't know. That's a
Tough
great
questions.
question. I don't know.
We'll get you thinking.
Well, that's why you're here. That's why
Exactly.
I'm here. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what they're doing is great. I mean, Turkey Al Sheikh is putting his money
Yeah,
where his mouth is, and it's great. I mean, everybody that's dealt with him that I've talked to says he's honorable. He's a gentleman. He doesn't negotiate like viciously. He's firm. Somebody said he's got a lot of substance and a great backbone and a lot of substance. I mean, which go hand in hand. So, all good.
Ricky, are these people you trust, or these people that are saying that because he's paying them? Like, let's be real here. I'm very upfront.
No, 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 no. Some are attorneys, some are boxing guys, some are
Yeah,
promoters, a little bit of everything. But I trust them. They're saying it to me in private. So if they had a complaint, they would tell me. Some of them are clients, remember that.
absolutely. Awesome.
So they would tell
Awesome.
me.
Well, really positive outlook. Hopefully, the sport can continue to evolve and grow, and hopefully, we can keep seeing these master chess moves happening by Turkey, and hopefully, his passion continues for the growth of the sport. If
Well, I also think, excuse me for interrupting, I think that the real statement recently has been the purchasing the Ring magazine and now stock in DAZN. I think those are the strongest
absolutely,
statements, more so than putting on the biggest fights. That shows long-term
that's
growth.
that's a
That's
commitment to
important.
the sport. Yeah, absolutely. Which
Correct.
market do you think will see the largest growth in terms of boxing in 2025?
What country?
Yeah,
I think with them doing an Eddie Hearn versus Oscar De La Hoya 5-on-5 in the United States, I think that'll help. I think Canelo and Crawford, assuming it happens in September, like they're talking about right now, they're negotiating. I think that. So I think
I,
America.
I
Be
think it's
honest with
highly
you.
unlikely that it won't happen because Turkey's got a hand in it and he's got both guys sitting down. So I'm pretty confident that that fight's going to happen.
Oh no,
Yeah, yeah.
it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen.
Now, what country do you think is like a sleeper country? The country that has so much potential because they're boxing crazy, but the investment has not been there.
Well, boxing was crazy back in the '90s and in the 2000s in Germany, and then it died off. So I would say Germany. I would say Germany.
You're right.
Um, I,
Felix
I
Sturm,
I believe so.
Abraham.
Both
Yeah,
Klitschko's
yeah,
fought
yeah,
over
yeah.
there. Michael Shevsky, Svedaki. I mean, they had a lot of
Yeah,
world
you're right.
champions
It's
back
just
then.
gone off the radar.
Right. Germany, I would say.
Wow. Well, there you go. Lots of talent can potentially come out of Germany, and that is definitely a country that can see a ton of growth. All right, let's keep
Yeah.
going. Our friends at ProBox TV announced a very different schedule this year, different format. More shows on the road, less shows at Plant City. What are your thoughts on these changes?
Pro Box. I met with Gary Jonas back in November, and he's got great vision. He's a visionary. He's a creator. He's a visionary, and he does what he says he's going to do. And I'm not comparing him to Turkey because he doesn't have a country behind him like Turkey does, the Saudi Arabian money. He's got his own money, but he's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's growing Pro Box by getting out of Florida and going to Texas and California. Shows a serious growth for Showbox. He's going to improve the quality of the shows. He's going to pay the fighters more because the fights when the fights are bigger, and that's what he's doing. He's going in that direction. Taking good. He's not taking baby steps. He's taking,
Big steps.
um, 3 steps at a time, not baby steps. And he's going to the next level. And I'm all for ProBox. I think it's a fantastic, fantastic business platform, a boxing platform. I think it's a great business platform. And I think Gary's bringing it all together. Great fights, no hold barred. He wants great fights. They're not the biggest fights, but they're very good fights.
I've known Gary Jonas for under 10 years now, just under 10 years now. And in 2016, he had this vision of this league that he has now created, this mid-tier boxing. Um, I'd call it a league, pretty much, right? And I've seen him at shows be very unhappy after shows, like go off because fighters are holding, wasting time, hugging. He's not interested. He wants action-packed fights. So I think people like Gary, people like Turkey are only better for the sport because they're visionaries. They're people that see the sport in different light. They're successful people outside boxing that bring that knowledge inside boxing. His compound in Plant City alone is unbelievable. You got a hotel for fighters. You got trucks that Hollywood doesn't even happen. So I think the sport now, after a long time of this downfall and downward slope, is back on the climb, and I think it's in good hands. I think one of the best things that could have happened is they lost Showtime on HBO. Personally, that's my personal opinion. And one of the best things that could have happened is they embrace streaming. Streaming is the power for boxing. Boxing doesn't know it, but streaming is its power.
I said that from
Exactly.
2017.
So
I, as soon as ESPN Plus came out with the streaming, and they had boxing on, I purchased it very early on, like within the first couple days.
streaming is boxing's asset, its power. It's way out of this old legacy media world that's so stuck and caught up in its own business model that only hurt the sport for the last 20 years. But on that, we will, and it's been a long show actually, we will call things to a close. Mr. Rick Glaser, once again, sir, it's an absolute pleasure. Before I let you go, do you have any parting words for us?
Just glad to be back after our little holiday hiatus, and we'll see you
Even
next week.
the greats need a break, Mister Rick Glaser. Ladies,
I wouldn't call me great, but I do a good job every day.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Rick. Take care, everyone. We'll catch you next week.